Right, hello everybody, welcome to the Adam Clery football channel where we try to make football make sense. Enzo Maresca has parted company with Chelsea, the footballing equivalent of a mutual breakup, but they're not having a terrible season. Like, recent results have been frustrating rather than disastrous, and they're still pretty well placed in both the Premier League and the Champions League. So, why? Well, today we're going to show you why the club was displeased with how he was setting this team up, but also why Maresca was quite personally frustrated at how he was being forced to utilise this group of players. You will be surprised how much of what's going on at Chelsea right now is playing out on the pitch as opposed to just in the boardroom. Now, first up, thank you to our official data providers, FOTMob. You'll be seeing us using their graphs and their stats throughout this video. And you should go and download the app for your phone because I have it and I love it. But first up, let's go look at Chelsea's recent results for some vital context. Only one win in Maresca's last 7 games, and while beating Barcelona felt like a massive moment in their season, it is sandwiched between 2 mingers against Atalanta and Qarabag. They've also got a league high 15 points dropped from winning positions, which, according to reports that have come out since Marexit, is a source of significant displeasure with the owners. And that's because Liverpool have dropped off a cliff this season. Man City have found their stride but are still levels below their all-conquering best. And Arsenal have been great, but Chelsea have looked like next season's big deal for 3 or 4 seasons now. And after being genuinely really impressive in the Club World Cup this summer, this was the season they really had to have a go, and it just hasn't materialised. No! Yeah, so Man United have just sacked Ruben Amorim, which is brilliant. Today's literally my birthday, by the way. I wasn't going to mention that. Today's literally my birthday, so now I have to do a Ruben Amorim video as well as this. So yes, anyway, you're the Chelsea owners, you're looking at the league table and the results and the money you've spent and thinking, yeah, all right, this is not really where we want this club to be. But again, according to the reports that we have had since Marexit, they were going to wait to conduct a full review at the end of Maresca's first 2 years. Right now, they were very happy with the job he was doing and still thought there was a good chance they'd have a good season. So this situation here doesn't really have anything to do with why he's left the club. But the question you have to ask is, why aren't Chelsea challenging at the very top of the Premier League? Because I think Maresca has proved in his time at the club that in individual games, if not necessarily long spells, he is one of the league's elite managers. Like, I personally get the Manchester City links. I think he manages the resources at his disposal really well. And especially in the big games, you always see examples in this team of small adaptations he has made that give Chelsea a really good chance of getting a result. Like, honestly, I was rubbing my thighs raw at their win against Liverpool. The amount of different ways they found to get in the space behind Mo Salah, how they pulled Gravenberch out of the way for Caicedo in that first goal. It's great from the players, but these things always have to start on the training ground, and I think Maresca is right up there for all this stuff. And yet, this run of form, how can a team with a manager this good, that's got players like Reece James, like Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, to name but a few, not be able to put the consistency together to challenge at the top of the league? How can you be the better team against Liverpool and Barcelona and Arsenal and then not go and beat Bournemouth and Leeds and Qarabag? Well, if we look at Chelsea's best 11, right, and these are the 11 most used players this season, plus Cole Palmer, who obviously starts if he's fit, I think that's brilliant. That could beat any other team in this league on its day. But then, right, if we start to add the depth that Chelsea have in its first team, these are all the other senior players in their strongest positions, I would say you also don't even have any major drop-offs from that first 11. You're covered in case of injury. Now, don't get me wrong, you'd really miss Moises Caicedo, for example, if he was sidelined for a while, but if Lavia was fit and could play, or you just stick Reece James in centre midfield, it's not like you're just going to overnight become a soft touch, is it? You lose Cole Palmer, well, you just move Enzo Fernandez further up the pitch. So there is flexibility to this squad as well as just depth. Like, look at the 11 they used in the City game. There is no Moises Caicedo, which is a huge loss. This back four has never, ever played together, and yet they went and snatched a point they richly deserved. And in the second half, after they brought Delap on, they did not look a bad bet to go and actually win the thing. Like, this is a talented group of players, and yet, at the very start of the season, Enzo Maresca was very displeased with the way the club had gone about building this squad, for good reason. Chelsea have the youngest team in the Premier League by an entire year. And just go and look at that graph again. The top two oldest teams are only separated by a few months. So to have the youngest team by a year shows how extreme that actually is in this league. 14 members of the first team this season are 23 years old or younger. And while, don't get me wrong, they've got some players that are so good you don't even think about their age, there is still a glaring lack of top-level experience in this team, especially at centre-back. Like, Tosin is 28, but nowhere near consistent enough to be a guaranteed starter. Fofana is an excellent defender, but they really struggle to keep him fit. Chalobah was told he didn't have a future at the club before being hauled back from his loan. Badiashile's never developed how they hoped he would, and Hato and Ashimpong are both incredible, very promising young players, but 19 years old. They do not have a Gabriel or a Van Dijk or a Ruben Diaz style figure. And whatever you may think about those three individuals or the seasons they're having, they are vital elements of a top-level defence because they know how to get the entire defence through difficult moments and through difficult games, even if they themselves are not playing that well. Chelsea do not have that profile anywhere. And again, don't get me wrong, you haven't got to be 29 or 30 years old to be that kind of player necessarily, but ask yourself, my friends, if all three of these gentlemen were mysteriously abducted by aliens, would any of the names on this list be getting talked about as likely replacements for them? No, they would not. They all have their qualities. They're all good players in their own rights, but none of them are that sort of player at that sort of level. And if you want to know why that's important, look at so many of the goals they've conceded this season. Like the opener against Bournemouth, they have so many players just standing around waiting for the referee to rule it out. There is nobody there taking charge, driving standards, making sure they don't concede. Even the equaliser, like Garnacho can take the hump here as much as he likes, but he ball watches and they leave the back post entirely free. Like, honestly, go and look at that again. All their defenders get caught trying and failing to win that first contact. Nobody there realises they're exposed, takes responsibility, does a bit of reorganisation on the pitch, and again, they give away more points from a winning position. And just for all this team is capable of doing brilliant things right the way across the pitch, I personally find them to be a side who repeatedly undo a lot of their good work in their planning and organisation with a lack of leadership off the ball. They have really good defenders, but they don't have anybody who will drag them through difficult moments. And that is the difference between them and the really top teams. But actually, no, they do have that player. And here is where we get to what has ultimately led to Enzo Maresca leaving Chelsea. It's really clear that the club see Levi Colwill as exactly that sort of player. He is experienced beyond his years. He is commanding at the back. He is a natural leader. And it's still only 22. The club believe his ceiling is right up there with the best centre-backs in the world. So at the very start of the season, you've got that guaranteed starter leadership figure in defence, but then In the summer, he ruptures his ACL and he's out for the entire season. And the reports, both back then and since his departure, have said that Maresca was pretty insistent the club go and replace him with a senior, experienced centre-back. But the club, while they do consult him on transfers, see his job as being to manage what he's given, and they saw this as an opportunity to better develop Josh Ashampong. And I mean, you look just, for example, at him versus Man City, he was amazing. I thought he was brilliant in that match. He was tucking inside to make a back three, then being aggressive, pushing up at full-back. There's clearly a massively talented player in there, but again, at 19 years old, he is not going to be the man to lead your defence through an entire season. So if I'm Enzo Maresca in that situation, then yeah, all right, I probably just accept that decision. You know what you signed up for when you took the job. It's not going to come as a massive shock, is it? But at the same time, when the questions then start getting asked about like, oh, how come you're not putting these consistent runs together? Why aren't you challenging further up the league? I would just point to decisions like that as the reason why. These teams above us all have something that we do not, and when you ask the club to go out and get that, you were told no. So what do they expect? But while this is a major part of what you're seeing in the games and a constant source of frustration for both the board and the fans, it's not apparently the thing that has caused the rift here. That apparently has to do with elements of player selection and other members of the Chelsea setup having a degree of power in that regard. First off, Chelsea's medical team will make firm recommendations over the number of minutes that every player is capable of playing in every single match, and it is expected that Maresca will always abide by that advice. It's why you've seen Reece James so regularly rotated across multiple competitions this season, and why, despite being fit all season, hooray, and arguably Chelsea's best player, he'd only started 13 of the 19 league games prior to Maresca leaving. Interestingly, two of the more recent times he was rotated out, they dropped points against Bournemouth and got beat off Leeds. And you can see that Maresca sort of disagreed with the medical assessment over James to an extent, as he gave him a full 90 minutes 3 times in a week in December. This, we're told, caused a bit of friction internally because it was expressly against the recommendation of the medical team, and he's not supposed to do that. Likewise, and this is an absolutely belter line in the piece about it on The Athletic, he got "you don't know what you're doing" chants for taking Cole Palmer off after an hour against Fulham, despite that being the advice of the medical team. So it was their idea, but he got all the shit for it. Just think, right, about all the times in your life at work when you've got it in the neck for something that was someone else's fault, right? Except now, it's not some tedious middle management type telling you off. It is thousands of cockneys who've been on the Madri Exceptional all day calling you a dipshit. You'd be fizzing, wouldn't you? So Maresca was understandably displeased with how things were going, like the lack of experience at the back, the way he had to defer to the medical team over minutes, the way he had to defer to the recruitment team over squad building. The club is not where everybody thinks it should be, and a lot of that is out of his control. He will have felt, rightly or wrongly, that his hands were slightly tied in this job, which isn't the end of the world, but it does mean that when the criticism starts coming in, you can't even really fight your own corner without then throwing the owners, your bosses, under the bus. And you combine that with all the noise around the Manchester City job, the fact he's in the frame for that, there's other clubs apparently sniffing around him, and you will start to think, do you know what? I don't need the hassle here. And if you're in that sort of frame of mind, then the club will be like, well, there's no point backing you and supporting you, because you're going to be off pretty soon anyway. So, if you're looking for a personal take on this, right, I think Enzo Maresca has at his disposal a brilliantly talented squad. But as we all know, you can't just turn up, play really well, and dazzle teams every single week. You need a bit of arsehole spread around here if you're going to grind out the really tough results. And without that, which is something Maresca wanted, remember, you're never going to reliably finish above an Arsenal or a Man City or even a Liverpool. And the thing is, Chelsea could beat any of those teams in 90 minutes, especially if they've got Enzo Maresca in the dugout. But the difference is that those teams are far more likely to turn up at the Vitality or at Ellen Road, play terribly, but win 1-0. Like, they go 1-0 up against Aston Villa, they survive the onslaught, they'll grind that out. Chelsea don't have enough of those results in them across the season. So yeah, I think Maresca's actually done a pretty good job getting Chelsea to where they are and having 2 trophies in his back pocket at the same time. But given that some of his football can be a little bit tedious at times, they do struggle in games you feel they should win, I can understand why both the owners and a section of the fan base thinks, do you know what? Some of these problems kind of are your fault. However, if Chelsea think they can just go and get another manager who will develop these players so they automatically just go to the next level, then best of luck to whoever that might be. If you can do more with a team this young without drastically changing the recruitment policy, you are one of the best managers in the world. So have fun. Anyway, yes, I was going to do a load of waffle at the end of this video because Happy New Year and Happy Birthday me and all of that, but I can't do that now, can I? Because I've got to go do the Man United video and the Liam Rosenior video. What a week I'm going to have. Thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe to us here at the Adam Clery Football Channel. This is 200k, it's so close. We would love to get that really soon. And of course, thanks to our official data providers, FOTMob. The app is genuinely, earnestly, I use it in real life, not just for any of this. It's dead good. You should go and download that. Chelsea fans, thoughts, feelings, Christ, let us know what you think about this in the comments down below. You can get me across all the social medias. I think I've already said that. Time to watch some Y-Scout clips on Darren Fletcher's under-21s. Weird day. Goodbye.